Myelination is kind of a complicated term for the adult learning process, and the reason I want to bring it up is basically what happens is when we do an action, when we physically do something or have a thought process, our body fires a signal down the nerve pathways, the neurons, and through that process of firing that signal, eventually the body releases a fatty substance that coats these pathways called myelin. And as these pathways continue to get coated with myelin, they get thicker and the nerve signal travels more efficiently. So what that does is a more efficient nerve signal builds a habit. So when we build a habit, we're in essence myelinating. When we learn something, we're myelinating a pathway. The problem is when we myelinate a pathway, so we have this nerve connection point, multiple connection points myelinated, the signal's very, very efficient. It becomes a primary pathway. We can't unmyelinate it, okay? So every time you learn, you're coating that pathway with a sheath of myelin. If it's the improper signal or if it's an improper pathway, you can't undo it. So when we're seeing the sight picture when we're shooting our gun and the subconscious reads maybe an improper sight picture, records it, and fires the shot by pulling the trigger, our subconscious just recorded something that was improper. If we repeat that over and over and over again, we simply myelinate that same pathway and we build a bad habit. So when the subconscious sees that improper sight picture, it's instantaneous. We can't stop it. We can't not fire that poor shot. And the downside is if it took me 1,000 repetitions to build that bad habit, to build a better habit is the only solution, because remember, I can't unmyelinate the pathway. So now I've got to do another 1,000 repetitions of training to build a new habit, and now I've got to make it stronger, because now I've got one habit and myelinated pathway that has 1,000 repetitions and another one 1,000. So they're about the same strength. They're probably both going to be selected subconsciously. Now I've got to do more work and do more repetitions and training to build a stronger pathway and realize and be conscious of that original bad habit. So it's both a conscious and subconscious process of rebuilding habits. Twice the amount of work, twice the amount of money, twice the amount of time. So that's what we talk about, building the right pathways and habits initially, trained properly first is the key. Neither should be their primary focus, but I look at speed and accuracy as complementary. In other words, we have to have both ultimately to be successful in practical shooting. But if you look at the alphabet, what comes first, A or the S? The A always comes before the S. So the accuracy has to be developed first, meaning whenever we do a drill, we're going to try to do it as quickly as we can within a certain level of accuracy. They're never a separate action, meaning when I train, I don't just go out and say, today's my speed day, I'm just going to go fast, because it's irrelevant to train fast if I'm not hitting the acceptable area, whether that's the 0 zone on an IDPA target, or the A zone on an IPSC target, or a smaller target area in a different kind of match. The point is, my ability to hit that target has to come first, and then I'm going to refine my physical abilities to do it faster by manipulating the gun faster or getting through that firing cycle faster. And the faster I can go through that cycle, the faster I can fire the next shot. Move fast and shooting control is a term that I use oftentimes with students. So what I mean by that is move physically as fast as you can and shoot in control. So for example, in everything we do in practical shooting, or almost everything, we're drawing the gun, we're stepping to a position, we're running to the next position, we're opening a door, we're doing all these different things. Those physical movements should be done as quickly as possible. You can gain a lot of speed just by being aggressive in those physical movements. The shooting, however, has to be done in control. And what I mean by control is that I want you to shoot at a speed that you can A, physically get the gun on target, and then recognize it visually that it's there and keep it there while you're firing the shot. If you can't keep the gun there while you're firing the shot, then you're not going to hit the shot. And that's what we talk about in some of the live fire drills, paying attention to the back end of the shot, which is when the sight lifts or the dot lifts and tells you exactly where that shot went. So that's the key to hitting a target. So once again, move quickly, but the shooting has to be in control. Control simply means as fast as you can hit that target area. Yeah, I like to compare the two because dry fire and live fire are oftentimes misunderstood for the same thing. A lot of people will come out and during their live fire training drills, they'll just draw and do one-shot draws. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with working that one-shot draw, but the reality is I can work on a one-shot draw at home in dry fire. And I can save myself both time and ammunition, and I can completely develop my draw process without firing a single round or leaving my home. So if I can do that, you know, and remember, with our manipulations training, dry fire is a great equalizer. You know, you can develop 90% of your manipulation skills in dry fire. Live fire, on the other hand, is specifically designed and should be used to develop your ability to go through that firing cycle. So the firing cycle, once again, is defined as locating the target visually, getting the gun on target, verifying the sights are there, and then managing the sights, trigger, and recoil while you're on that target. And then the second you can do that for one shot, you're going to go through that cycle again if you have to fire 2 shots on a target. In the combative world, you might fire 3 or 4 or 5 shots on that target, but the point is you're still going through that same cycle over and over again, and the live fire training sessions should be specifically designed so that you're working that cycle from an off-balance position, after a reload, while you're leaning, while you're moving, etc. And that's what I'm working on in live fire, is the firing cycle. Dry fire, of course, I'm developing my manipulation skills. Training is the utmost of importance, and one of the things that I found with my book and the people that write me, I just got an email today about a guy who won his class and he's won his local match for the first time ever. And oftentimes it's not some sort of secret that I put in the book, although there's some great tips and some secrets there. It's the fact that they took this systematic approach to training and they applied it. I simply made them go out and work, and I gave them something to focus on versus randomly going to the range and just shooting. Because you know, I spent years of my life going to the range and shooting and wondering if I was getting any better. And nobody wants to spend their time and money and energy wondering if you're getting better. So simply find that time to train by using my systematic approach to training, and you'll see yourself grow in leaps and bounds.